But I don't want to do fuel hauling. I'll get cancer. Yes, I'll take a Big Mac with an extra large fry and an extra large Dr. Pepper.
What is going on today, guys? It's Hazmat Trucker for another video for you guys today. And today, I just wanted to get into the good, the bad, and the ugly of what it's like to haul fuel. To start off, I'll start off with the disclaimer that if anyone says that any job, let alone fuel hauling, is all sunshine and rainbows and there's no aspects that suck or are hard to deal with, they're lying to you. So, with that being said, overall, I think fuel hauling is a good job, and obviously that's why I'm going to try and retire in it. But there are some pros, there are some cons, and ultimately I just wanted to make this video to help you guys make a decision for yourself if fuel hauling is right for you. So let's start off with the pros, shall we? So generally speaking, you're going to be home every single day, and for me, for having a young family, that's huge. That's really honestly worth about 100 grand a year in itself. Obviously, if you're a single guy, you don't have any family, and you just want to run the road, go make your money, man. But for me, with a young family, that was a huge priority for me, and that's honestly why I started to gravitate towards fuel hauling or something local in general. But the next pro for me would be the pay, which is even on average. Obviously, at my company, within my first year, I earned $128,500 here at Gemini Motor Transport with my first year here. And again, that was averaging 57 hours a week, with my pay rate being $36 an hour, overtime after 40 at $54 an hour. But the pay on average for fuel haulers is pretty significantly higher than just your average driver. So that is something to consider. And again, the next best thing for me is the consistency of the work in itself. I have been in fuel for 2.5 years, and to my recollection, not including weeks that I decided to take a day or several days off or the entire week off, when I was working 5 days for that week, I had never had a week in fuel hauling across my 3 different fuel hauling companies that was lower than about 48 hours per week. That was my slowest week, was about 48 hours in that 1 week. Everything, generally speaking, it's 50 hours and well and above. At Pilot, I was averaging 63, 64 hours a week. And so the hours are there, the consistency of work is there, and that keeps your paycheck consistent and you know what to expect. And that's because fuel is always moving. The trucking industry needs fuel. So the next best thing for me was, it's not a super physically hard job. I've done some physically hard jobs like food delivery in the past, and I gotta say, the average age of the average fuel hauler, I gotta guess, is in his 50s or her 50s, because a lot of older guys are in this job, and I think it's because they intuitively know it's not going to break your back. It's not going to, you're generally speaking not going to have to lift a lot of weight unless you're doing your job pretty wrong. But it's very manageable. Even for women, there's quite a few women in the fuel hauling industry compared to others. But that being said, going on to the next pro for me, you're rarely waiting. When I did regional work, sitting at a dock for anywhere from 6 to 8 hours drove me mad. I was getting antsy on top of other things, but I was getting antsy having to wait, and I felt like my time was being wasted, even though I was being paid for it, albeit marginally. But I'm a go type of person, and that works really well with fuel hauling, because generally speaking, you'll get your loads for the night, right? You'll head towards the loading rack, you'll load your loads, you'll go to the store, and you'll deliver, and then you're on to the next one. Unless there are sometimes some hiccups where you'll show up to the loading rack, you're out of allocation for whatever product you're trying to load, and then you may have to go to another rack. But besides that, or if you hit like a inventory shut down like I did the other night in another video, generally speaking, you're going to be going, and it keeps you on your feet. And for me, it keeps the night moving. My nights, especially when I'm going constantly back and forth, it makes the night go a lot faster. So that's the next best thing for me. And generally speaking, that's kind of what I view as the pros of fuel hauling. So getting into some of the cons. Weather. So whether it's raining, whether it's snowing, whether it's hailing, and wind on top of that all, or if it's just beautiful and sunshine outside, you're going to be hauling the fuel to those stores because the demand is always there regardless of the weather. I've delivered fuel at -25 here in Wyoming. I think that was about my coldest at Pilot. And I've delivered when it's 95 degrees out and sunny and I'm sweating. So it's, regardless of the weather, you're going to work. And so if that's something that's going to bother you, might have to look elsewhere. But the next con that comes to mind is slip seating. And for me, I have not had a lot of good slip seaters. So where they were generally respectful and, you know, didn't leave trash everywhere. I have not had that experience. So definitely for me, it is a con. And in the fuel hauling industry in general, you're going to be slip seating. And to my knowledge, the only two exceptions to that are if you have your own truck, as in you're an owner operator or lease operator, or within a company you have your own truck and you're running your 70-hour clock out, which if you have your own truck and you're not slip seating, generally speaking, they require you to run out your 70-hour clock to make the most money on that truck. And so that has its own trade-offs. You're going to be working more, obviously. But so you either have your own truck, you're assigned to a sleeper position, or like at my first fuel hauling company where I was somewhere around 30% below the market average as far as what they were paying me goes. Yeah, we didn't have to slip seat trucks. That was the first fuel hauling company's whole marketing play to drivers is, oh, you don't have to slip seat a truck. But to me personally, you know, people can do what they want. If that's worth a 30% pay cut for some people, more power to you. For me, I'm not at that point in my life where I can show up to work and I'm not necessarily caring what I get paid. I mean, hopefully that would be nice to be in that sort of a spot, but I'm not. So to me, that doesn't really work. And so moving on to the next con, generally speaking, and this is going to depend on your area that you're working in, but for me, it is a con of having to drive through densely populated metro areas where there's bad drivers, there's traffic, and also working at night. There's drunks that you have to watch out for, which I've almost gotten hit by multiple drunks on multiple occasions. So keep your head on a swivel, and pay attention to the road, obviously. So that's a con for me. And then the next big con would be working nights and weekends and holidays. So generally speaking, if you're scheduled to work on a holiday like Christmas or Thanksgiving or New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, something like that, you're going to be working. Sometimes it is slow enough to where, especially that time of year, Christmas, New Year's, that you can request it off and they more likely than not will give it to you, especially if it is slow. And some guys, like in my crew specifically, they don't mind working the holidays because it's extra money in their pocket. But if you're expecting a day shift with weekends off, Saturday, Sunday off, and you're not expecting to work on major holidays, probably not the right industry for you, because again, fuel is always moving regardless of, you know, if it's the weekend, if it's at night, if it's a major holiday, it's always moving because people are always buying stuff, freight is always moving. So if that's something that's really not going to work for you and you're not willing to stick out a night shift specifically for a couple of years, probably not the right industry for you. And sometimes you can get lucky. On occasion, they'll post, Gemini will post a day shift position, or, you know, any other company can post a day shift position. You can get lucky, but generally speaking, you're going to be working on nights and on weekends starting out for at least several years. So just wanted to give you guys that heads up and give you guys my perspective on what I think the pros and cons are in fuel hauling. If you guys found this helpful, please like and subscribe, and I will see you guys on the next one. Ciao.